Welcome back everyone, this is G, and today I'm going to show you how to make cells just like this in your fluid art paintings. Cells are just awesome, they're my favorite thing in fluid art, and it can be a bit of an elusive topic, especially in the beginning when you're first starting out. So I'm going to help you understand how it's done. The pouring medium I'm using today is Elmer's Glue All. You don't need Floetrol today, so rejoice if you're in one of the countries that doesn't have it. And the colors I'm using are all Arteza, except for the black color. I'm going to use Amsterdam Oxide Black. Okay? What we're doing here is using a little bit of silicone oil to create that oil and water don't mix reaction, also called the hydrophobic reaction, to create cells and bring them to the surface using a torch, which you need when you use glue as a pouring medium. This might actually be one of the only things I like about glue over Floetrol is that you need heat to bring cells to the surface. Because with Floetrol, typically cells come to the surface very quickly, and what that means is the cells can get very wobbly in a way that's kind of unpleasant, especially when you start stretching the painting out. Okay? So what I've done is I've taken the glue, the Elmer's Glue All, and I've mixed it 70% by weight glue to water, and that makes the pouring medium, right? And then I take that pouring medium and mix it 2 parts to 1, again by weight, with the acrylic paints. Now remember, I showed you the paints that I'm using. They're Arteza and Amsterdam, specifically because if you use other brands, you have to make note of how thick the body of the paint is. If you use soft body paints, premix paints, fluid paints, something like that, the recipe is never going to come out the same, right? And I had actually done a video about that. I'll link it in the top right corner right now, about paint body. If this term confuses you or if you don't know what it means, you might want to check that video out, right? So everything has been mixed in the recipe I just told you. 70% glue all, 30% water, and then we take that mixture and mix it 2 to 1 with acrylic paint. For the base, I've used the house paint called Sherwin-Williams Color to Go. If you don't have that, it's no problem. You can use the same recipe for the colors for your base. The only difference is in the colors, I'm putting 1 drop of silicone oil and mixing it, right? You can also skip the metallic colors. If you use silicone oil, skip the metallic colors. It doesn't work well in metallic colors. Just put it in the others and it'll still look good. So what I've done is I've essentially put all the paints, all the colors onto a palette knife, turned the spin table, and swiped while that is happening, right? And you'll notice it's patchy. Sometimes you have areas that didn't get coverage. You can do it again. It's not a problem, right? You can do it as many times over as you want, and because ultimately in the end you're going to spin off or tilt off any excess. Okay? So, as you can see, nothing has happened yet. No cells have popped up. Glue is very elastic. It's very sticky, and it doesn't have those same self-leveling properties that Floetrol has, right? So the cells don't just jump to the surface on their own. They need a little bit of help or a little bit of encouragement through heat, right? We do that with either a torch like this on its lowest setting or a heat gun on a low setting as well. Remember, because heat guns get really, really hot. You don't need that much heat. You just leave it on the low setting, and then you just get close to the paint and you'll notice the cells start to pop up, right? If you crowd the cells, if you torch every single spot on the painting, your cells will cluster and they will be really small, right? Sometimes you don't have a choice. Sometimes, you don't really, like, the torch just touches the paint and it just immediately explodes into cells, right? But if you have the option or if you want the control, just remember, if you crowd the cells, if you create too many, it's very hard for them to get big. At this point, I just want to ask you a huge favor. If you're not already subscribed to my channel, please consider subscribing. It would help me immensely. And if you want to learn more about these techniques and cells in all the scientific detail that I'm known for, I've packaged that into self-paced online courses that I've put in the description of this video, and I'll link them in the comments as well. Check them out. Believe me, it's way more cost-effective to take a course and learn what you're supposed to do and buy the right materials than it is to figure it out for yourself using impulse buys, right? Anyway, so back to the painting, right? We didn't really put a lot of paint on the canvas because we had it on the tool, so we don't really have a lot of room to spin or expand the painting, right? What I am gonna do is I'm gonna add a little bit more cells around that circular pattern around the outside. And you can see there's a bit of a lag between, you torching the paint and the cells actually popping up. Again, it depends how thick the paint are. What we're using here is called the medium consistency, and it gives a very nice balance between movement and holding cell structure, right? If you want more movement, you go thinner. If you want better hold for the shapes and composition, you go thicker, right? So medium gives you a nice balance between both. And once you're happy with the placement of your cells and the composition, if you have room to tilt or expand, you can do that. If you don't, like I do, you're pretty much done. You can figure that out by tilting the canvas a little bit. If you see movement, you have some room to expand it, and if you don't, then you're pretty much done. Thanks for watching. This is G, and I'll see you in the next video.